Alright, so good morning everyone. This is my 98 TJ and needs a new gas tank skid. So I'm going to be showing you today how to install a new skid on a 98 TJ, how to disconnect the gas tank, drop the tank, and take the skid out. There are a couple of videos on YouTube about how to do this, but they're kind of outdated and old, so this is just a video to update that. Maybe show you guys a couple more ways how to get these rusted skids out. Okay, so as you can see, I've already kind of started some work. I've already got the tank somewhat dropped. And you might be saying, oh, that looks like is that the skid right there? Yeah, that is the skid. My skid was so rusted and the bolts were so bad that the easiest method for me to get the skid out was by using shears and cutting the only remaining metal, which was not very much. It took me about an hour to do. And was kind of hard with these shears. I wouldn't recommend getting shears that small, maybe something a little bigger. Had to be kind of careful not puncturing the tank as well with the shears on the other side. But as you can kind of see, the skid is more or less disassembled. And remember that I know that on a TJ, the gas tank straps, the straps just hold in the tank to the skid. And I guess technically I shouldn't call it a skid. It's more of a gas tank retention system thingy. So it's kind of a bad design because if this skid rusts out all the way and you neglectfully don't replace it, or you don't know, then your gas tank is just going to come flying out one day, and that's pretty dangerous. So if you have a rusted skid, should get it replaced. I got this skid, the replacement, to get this replaced, I got it quoted at a shop for $800, and that was absolutely ridiculous. Guy told me he wanted to take the whole tub off to drop new bolts in. I don't think that's going to be necessary. Maybe for the front ones where you have to drop the bolts through the frame rail, that might be a little bit tricky. Okay, so as you can see right there, this is the front of the skid, and those two bolts, all the bolts are spinning, and that was the problem, is that every single one of these bolts was spinning. And even though I soaked them for about 2 or 3 days, twice a day with PB Blaster, second I got a wrench on there, they just started spinning. You could lop this off with a welding torch, but I don't have a welding torch, and that's a bit crazy for me. Any sort of cutting, any sort of flame near gas tank scares me. So really my only option was to remove the skid this way, which was maybe not the most effective way, but it actually was pretty quick. Not dangerous. I would recommend having somebody nearby and a fire extinguisher just in case, and maybe a spill pan if you puncture the gas tank. I did this with about 3 gallons of fuel in it. If you're cutting, using a cutting torch, welding torch or whatever, probably do it on a full tank, just because empty tanks with fumes are more likely to explode than a full tank. But don't quote me on that. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at the new tank. Okay, so next up, you're going to want to unattach the gas nozzle right at those 4 screws right there. The guys on the inside, not the bezel on the outside. And that'll allow the tank to drop on that side. Alright, so we've got the screws unattached. The tank should drop on this side now. Just want to make sure that you have a jack underneath there, because if you don't and the tank drops, you're probably going to rip out some of the lines. So let the tank drop a little bit, probably about 3 or 4 inches, and that should be enough room for you to get your hands on top and disconnect the fuel line, the vapor line, and the electrical line. Okay, so kind of hard to see, but right there, here's one of our lines. And from online, I've heard that this one you have to insert, you got to do something with the pins, insert 2 screwdrivers and then push the thing outwards. It's not the duckbill connector like the fuel line. So we're going to disconnect this line first, because this side of the tank wants to come down first. it's not really coming down evenly like I thought it would. That's just because of the way that I cut the skid, and it's kind of hanging on one side, which is no good. So I'm just going to disconnect this line so I can kind of wiggle it out from there. Okay, so we got the tank dropped. The evap lines proved to be a little more difficult than I thought, mainly because I didn't really know where to connect them, but they just connect off at the gas tank. It's not like the later models where you've got some sort of connection. These are just rubber lines, and they're actually pretty bad. I actually broke this getting it off. It's there are two lines, and they go into this Y connector, and one of the lines is just this little tiny crappy connector just snapped. So hopefully O'Reilly's or AutoZone is going to have something like this. If not, we'll be waiting for a while. But I got the gas tank dropped without busting any of the fuel lines or anything. You do leak a little bit of fuel when you disconnect the fuel line. Make sure that you depressurize the fuel line before you do this. The easiest way to depressurize the fuel line in a TJ is to crank it over, pull the fuse box in the engine compartment, and take out the fuel pump relay. The line was not depressurized for me by simply removing the relay and cranking it over because the engine won't start. I had to actually turn the Jeep on and then take the relay out and then let the engine die, and that depressurized the line and only leaked a little bit of gas. So not too bad. Alright, so here's the tank. Here's your fuel line. That's a duckbill connection. You can connect it either there, disconnect it rather, right there, or right there. That is a evap line. There's the other evap line. Those come out simply by pulling on the lines. However, I did break the connection between the two. When I pulled it out, it was just a bad, I don't know, cheap connection, I think. There's your sending unit, and the electrical line that comes out of that is right there. Make sure you keep the red tab. And then I don't really know, there's the fuel filler nozzle. I don't really know what this guy is, but he was just zip tied right to the filler nozzle. I have no idea what that line is. Yeah, probably want to figure that out. So now, don't know if you'll be able to see any of this. We're going to start the process of removing the skid because the remnants of it are still in here. Here you go. Yeah, so basically the straps are still in. Half the skid is still in. And now, I'm just going to go get my die grinder and start cutting. I think it should be easy to take this back section out because I can actually get a wrench rather, on the back of those screws back there, which I wasn't able to do before when the tank was in. However, all of my body mounts are pretty much shot right now, so raising up the tub to get onto that cross member is not really going to be an option, so I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to do this. Okay, so I removed this back section right here, and the gas tank straps, soaked them with PB Blaster. As you can see right here, this is what happens when they're rusted and you try to get on it with an impact. It just bends it. I was trying to unscrew these, possibly save them, but after looking at the condition, yeah, we're just going to get new ones. All of this is rusted. I also believe that this gas tank had been worked on at a shop due to the fact that these bolts, 13 mil head, well, as you can see, there's a square fitting put in by Chrysler, and I don't believe that Chrysler would put a square fitting in and then drop a bolt through that didn't have a square neck, at least for the first part of it, have a square neck. So I believe that this was probably worked on at a shop and some guy just dropped some random bolts in, and that's why they were spinning so bad, because this is just an awful design. if that's what Chrysler really did, then geez, that's really stupid. But now on to this back part. This is going to be the not so much fun part because I really can't get over that frame rail. There's one right there, and there's two more hiding in there. So I don't know how we're going to do this. It'll be fun. Okay, so update. We have the tank out, and we have all of the garbage out, the old tank and whatnot, skid plate rather, and the bolts. I don't know if you can see in here. Basically, the bolts. Okay, so hopefully you can see that a little bit. Basically, we cut 2 holes with a hole saw in the tub, and we dropped, what are they called? Carriage bolts. We dropped carriage bolts down into the carriage bolt holders. We could have tapped it and put in bolts from the other side, but I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to drop carriage bolts in, because that's the right way to do it. And then basically, once the skid's all in, this is actually just a plug, drain plug from the front. Fill this with a little bit of silicone. That fits right in there, and that should be good enough. That way we can have access to that, so that you can, if these bolts ever seize up again or whatnot. But they shouldn't, though. Carriage bolts are supposed to be able to be taken out easy, but whoever worked on this Jeep did not put carriage bolts in, and that was the source of the problem. So we just got to do one more hole, kind of find out where it is, and then after that, it should be good to go. The tank is drying right now. I just put a coat of rubberized bed liner, something like that, on there. Some really nasty stuff, so that should weatherproof it a little bit more. But other than that, it's coming along. Picked up some vapor lines, evap lines at O'Reilly's, and cleaning off the tank, so it should be good to go in a couple hours. Alright, so it's Saturday morning, and got everything ready, everything I need to put the tank back in. We've got the skid that I painted with some rubberized sprayer I got at the local hardware store. Some really nasty stuff, has asphalt in it and whatnot. I think it was just called rubber underliner, something like that. Not bed liner, different kind of stuff, but it's in a spray can. Got the gas tank straps. They are drying over here. Putting just layer spray paint on them. So yeah, I got these overnighted, FedExed. It was only like $8, so worth it to me. They didn't come with bolts, so I just went to the hardware store and picked some up. It's just, they're 5/16. So just picked up some 5/16 nylon threads, locking nuts. Other than that, things are going good. Just blew out my frame with my air compressor. Got some more rust out. Put a new soft top on. Quadratech, cheapest one, really nice, fits well. Put in a new steering stabilizer this morning. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. So got that put in. So things are going along pretty good. Yep. Okay, so Sunday, last day of this project. As you can see, got the tank in. It really was just as easy as reverse process. Just reconnect all the lines and use a jack to jack everything up. It was pretty heavy once the skid's in with the tank. So note that. Yeah, so basically everything's in, nice and tight, looks pretty good. Those are the bolts right there. Stainless steel, and the gas tank strap, also stainless steel. So that was a project. If you have any questions, drop a comment or comment in the post. And happy Jeeping.